And the person working on the case study, at the end of the case study, asked Stanley, would you like to work for Amazon? And I would recommend you to a position that's higher than the entry level, given what we see you're doing. So we're going to recommend I think in Amazon's hierarchy was called L5 position. So that is a notch higher than a position somebody fresh out of college would get. So that's Amazon recognized that his ability and his achievement is above regular college graduate. And since he was already about to have this interview with Amazon, that reminded him his conversation years back with Google. So he circled back to Google saying, hey, I'm about to turn 18. By the way, Amazon is interviewing me. Would you like to schedule an interview? And you know how it goes. Usually when there's competition, the companies move really quickly. So shortly after that, Google started to scheduling interview with him. He had a phone interview and probably did well because he moved on to the next stage. And that's where at the orientation in Austin, he got this email from Google saying, we're going to schedule a full day.
As he was going to go to the University of Texas in Austin.
Yeah, he was, he has to go somewhere, right? If the other ones reject him, he has to pick one of the two that accepted his application. So that's when he got this email from Google. And Google said, we're going to schedule a full day interview with you for a full-time position. And that was the last day to withdraw without penalty. So he made a decision to drop on the spot. It was a gutsy call because Google's interview actually is quite difficult. Some of the numbers I saw was like single-digit acceptance rate, probably harder than a lot of the elite colleges. And he was quite confident. Well, being 17 at that time, he just said, "Okay, I'm gonna drop out. I'm gonna, in more accurate terms, like I'm gonna take a gap year. I'm gonna take a gap year. I'm gonna take a chance to interview with Google." A few weeks later, Google said, "You did well in the interview. We're gonna offer you an L4 level position, which is roughly equivalent to Amazon's L5." So what that position means is that position is usually offered for people, if they're fresh out of school, fresh out of university, they usually have to have a PhD degree to get to that level. So on one hand, Google, after spending 10 hours interviewing him on not only the technical coding skills, but also communication and the whole set of the skills, saying, we'd like to hire this person for a PhD-level job. The college is saying, well, thanks for applying. You're not good enough for undergrad admission. So the gap between the two is a little bit too big to reconcile by any measure. So we're scratching our head and not sure what to make of it. So we shared the story in a local WeChat group. We live in Palo Alto, so there's a parent group in Palo Alto on WeChat with about maybe 400 people in it. So share story saying, hey, we've heard anecdotal stories in the past that how Asian kids face a really high bar when applying to colleges, but we didn't realize it's as high as this, as absurd as this. And here's our son's story. He applied, got rejected by 16, and yet he was offered a full-time job position at Google that usually requires a PhD degree.
And what was going through your mind when you got those rejection letters from the UC schools and California schools?
I did not see them one at a time because he managed the process. To be honest, to this day, I barely understand the college application process. There's some EA or early admission or those acronyms. He explained it to me once. I asked him, if I forgot, asked him to explain to me one more time as a teenager. He just ignored me. So to this day, I'm still not sure about all these terminologies in college application. So he was managing on his own. And initially I thought maybe by February, by March, we would hear some, he would say, hey, good news, I'm admitted here. Nothing. Oh, he just quiet. So one day I finally said, how's it going? He was like, I got rejected by all these schools. I was like, what? What the hell's going on here? because we certainly had certain amount of expectation given his credentials, given his extracurricular activities and all of that. And so we thought some of the schools are supposedly the safety schools, but apparently maybe not so much. And then maybe at that point when we were doubting ourselves, maybe there's something we just don't understand about the college application. Maybe you know, as parents, maybe we just have a skewed view of our kids, because every parent does that to some degree. So I'm somewhat of aware that I could have a bias in there. But then a few months later, Google hired him for a PhD-level position. So I guess I'm not that crazy thinking that he had a good chance of getting into some of the colleges.